The message reached the Galactic Council exactly 1 hour before their deadline expired. Ambassador Zexithara read it aloud to the emergency assembly, in a voice that carried more confusion than authority. The words were simple and polite, but somehow they felt more final than any declaration of war. To the Galactic Council, humanity thanks you for your offer but must respectfully decline. We have decided to pursue other opportunities. The worlds we are leaving behind are gifts to the galaxy. May you find them useful. Do not follow us. Farewell. War Speaker Thex rose from his section, his insect form bristling with aggressive postures that meant he was preparing for battle. What do they mean by other opportunities, he demanded. There are no other opportunities beyond council authority. And what do they mean by do not follow us, added the Feltar representative, his tentacles writhing with nervous energy. Zexithara had no answers. The message was unlike any diplomatic communication in galactic history. It read more like a polite farewell note than a response to a military ultimatum. In the Vorthak fleet, Admiral Zorthal stared at the same message displayed on his command screens. Something about the phrasing made his crystalline form hum with harmonics that indicated deep unease. He had expected desperate pleas for mercy or angry defiance. He had not expected a goodbye note. Sir, energy readings from the Sol system are approaching critical levels, his sensor officer reported. Whatever they are powering up, it will reach maximum capacity within minutes. All ships to battle stations, Zorthal ordered, though he was not sure what they were preparing to battle. Prepare to move to engagement range. But before the Vorthak fleet could advance, every piece of monitoring equipment in the Sol system registered readings that shattered their ability to measure. Energy levels spiked beyond the maximum range of their instruments. Space itself seemed to bend and twist around Earth and Mars like fabric being stretched by invisible hands. On Earth, Dr. Alex Chen stood in the underground control center watching displays that showed the impossible becoming reality. Quantum field generators throughout the solar system synchronized their outputs, creating a network of space-time distortions that connected 14 different worlds through folded dimensions. All nodes reporting stable field generation, announced Dr. Carol Hayes. Quantum anchors are maintaining synchronized frequency across the entire network power levels, holding steady at maximum sustainable output. We are literally reshaping space-time on a stellar scale. President Sullivan stood beside Chen, watching the final countdown timer reach 0. Initiate translation, she ordered. Chen activated the primary sequence and felt the universe change around them. For a moment that lasted both forever and no time at all, reality folded in on itself. Space-time bent like a piece of paper being crumpled by cosmic hands. 14 worlds existed simultaneously in 2 different locations before snapping into their new coordinates with a sensation. Like the universe taking a deep breath, the Sol system vanished. Admiral, Zorthal watched his displays go blank as every human world simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, not even moved in any conventional sense. They had been there one moment and gone the next, leaving behind empty orbits and confused gravitational fields that would take months to stabilize. Report, he demanded, though his voice carried the harmonic undertones that meant he was struggling to process what had just happened. All human worlds have disappeared from our sensors, his tactical officer reported in a voice that suggested he did not believe his own words. Earth, Mars, and 12 colonial worlds. Complete disappearance with no debris field or energy signature. Disappeared how unknown, sir. Our instruments detected massive space-time distortions immediately before the event, but the readings were beyond our ability to analyze. In the council chambers on Nexus Prime, emergency sessions convened as reports flooded in from monitoring stations throughout what had been human space. Every alien species struggled to understand what they had just witnessed. Entire worlds did not simply vanish, yet that was exactly what had happened. Search fleets report no trace of human presence beyond the galactic rim, announced Zexithara to a silent assembly. Long-range sensors detect no ships, no signals. No evidence that they ever existed. Impossible, stated War Speaker Thex. But his aggressive posturing had been replaced by the confused movements of someone whose understanding of reality had just been challenged. Nevertheless, it appears to be fact, Zexithara replied. Humanity has somehow removed their entire civilization from known space. The implications began sinking in as various species sent exploration teams to claim the abandoned human worlds. What they found there disturbed them even more than the disappearance itself. The worlds were perfect. Too perfect. Every system operated flawlessly. Every facility functioned at peak efficiency. Every piece of technology worked better than anything the galactic species had ever seen. On New Harmony, Forthak agricultural experts discovered farming techniques that could increase food production by 300%. The processing facilities used technologies that seemed to violate several fundamental laws of physics while producing better results than anything in the galactic database. The mining world of Kepler-7 yielded extraction equipment that could harvest rare metals at impossible rates while causing minimal environmental damage. The abandoned facilities contained enough processed materials to build entire fleets of advanced spacecraft. Most disturbing of all was the university world of New Athens. The libraries contained scientific research that made council academics question everything they thought they knew about the universe. The humans had been conducting experiments in fields that most species considered theoretical impossibilities. They were more advanced than any of us, realized, reported Velnara after spending weeks examining human facilities. Their technology exceeds our best capabilities in every category we have tested. Similar reports arrived from every world humanity had abandoned. Each facility was a demonstration of capabilities far beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. The humans had not just refused to submit to galactic authority. They had proven they never needed galactic protection in the first place. Months passed before the full scope of human advancement became clear. The abandoned worlds were not just gifts. They were messages. Working examples of what humanity could accomplish when left to develop on their own terms. Every perfect facility, every impossible technology, every flawless system served as proof that the Council had drastically underestimated the species they had tried to intimidate. And somewhere beyond the edge of known space, beyond the reach of galactic sensors and monitoring stations, humanity was beginning again. President Kate Sullivan stood on the observation deck of New Earth, watching unfamiliar stars shine down on the cities her species had brought with them across impossible distances. The new world was beautiful in ways that Earth had never been. 2 moons hung in an alien sky painted with colors that had no names in human languages. In the distance, construction ships worked on projects that would have been impossible in their old galaxy, building cities and orbital installations with technologies they no longer needed to hide. "Any regrets?" asked Jake Morrison, joining her at the viewing window. Sullivan smiled with the same expression that had made the Galactic Council so uncomfortable during their final meeting. "None whatsoever," she replied. "Let them study our gifts. Perhaps they will learn something useful." Behind them, the cities of New Earth sparkled with lights that represented human determination made visible. Children played in parks designed for gravity slightly different from Earth normal. Adults went to work in buildings that incorporated architectural principles impossible in their old reality. The entire civilization was adapting to their new home, with the flexibility that had always been humanity's greatest strength, the quantum anchor. "Network is performing perfectly," reported Dr. Alex Chen from his new laboratory complex. "We have confirmed the ability to relocate entire star systems if necessary. The galaxy we left behind cannot follow us even if they develop similar technology." "Good," Sullivan said, though she doubted the Council would ever develop anything similar. "What about our exploration programs?" "Initial surveys indicate this galaxy cluster contains over 2 million potentially habitable worlds. No signs of intelligent life, but abundant resources and beautiful places to call home." The president nodded and returned her attention to the alien stars. Humanity had walked away from ultimatums and threats, carrying their entire civilization to a place where they could grow without interference. They had left behind the perfect demonstration of what they were capable of achieving. The silence they had left in their wake spoke louder than any threat or warning ever could. In refusing to fight or submit, they had delivered the ultimate message to the Galactic Council. They needed nothing the galaxy had to offer, and the galaxy had everything to learn from them. In choosing to walk away calmly, humanity had proven that true strength sometimes meant having the wisdom to leave rather than the power to stay and fight. The empty orbits they left behind would remind the galaxy forever that some species could not be conquered because they refused to be contained. With 3 days remaining until the Council deadline, the aliens had stopped feeling confident about their ultimatum. The human evacuation had been too organized. too complete and too strange for anyone to understand. Every abandoned world broadcast the same automated message from orbital beacons. Property of humanity. Temporarily unoccupied. Fleet Admiral Zorthal stood in the war room of his flagship, studying holographic displays that showed the current positions of human forces. The Vorthak fleet had grown to impressive size over the past weeks, with reinforcements arriving daily from across the Empire. Over 4,000 capital ships now, waited at the edge of human space like a storm preparing to break. Intelligence confirms that the majority of human population has gathered on Earth and Mars, reported his chief tactical officer, a younger Vorthak whose crystals hummed with nervous energy. Their entire fleet remains in the Sol system. 47 destroyers, 12 heavy cruisers, and 1 dreadnought. Against our 4,000 ships, Zorthal mused, his own crystals producing the deep harmonic tones that indicated careful thought. The odds are so overwhelming that resistance seems pointless. Perhaps that is why they are not resisting, Admiral. Perhaps they realize they cannot win. But Zorthal had been studying human behavior for weeks now, and nothing about their actions suggested a species preparing to surrender. What of their colonies beyond our normal monitoring range? The same pattern everywhere. Complete evacuation, but all facilities left intact and operational. Some of our long-range scouts report finding worlds that appear to have been abandoned for days, but still show perfect maintenance of all systems. The Admiral moved to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Somewhere among those points of light, humanity was making final preparations for something. But what could a species with 12 worlds and 59 ships do against the combined might of the Galactic Council? On Earth, those final preparations were indeed underway. Deep beneath the major cities and facilities that most humans did not know existed, massive quantum tunnel generators hummed with barely contained energy. The machines occupied underground caverns carved from solid rock, their surfaces covered with mathematical equations that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Alex Chen stood in the primary control center buried beneath New Geneva, monitoring power levels that defied every conventional understanding of physics. Banks of computers processed calculations that would have been impossible just months ago, their screens displaying numbers that seemed to change reality simply by being observed. The quantum field generators are operating within acceptable parameters, reported Dr. Carol Hayes, reading from multiple monitoring stations at once. We are maintaining stable space-time distortion across all primary nodes. Power consumption, Chen asked, though he already knew the answer would be astronomical. Currently drawing the equivalent output of 12 fusion reactors per node. We have 47 nodes operational across Earth, Mars, and the designated colony worlds. Chen nodded and made another notation in his ever-present tablet. The mathematics still seemed impossible even to him, and he had helped develop the theory. Moving entire worlds through folded spacetime required energy levels that approached the theoretical limits of what matter could contain. Any word from the orbital construction teams? The final quantum anchors are being installed now, Hayes replied. Captain Morrison reports all systems will be ready for synchronized activation within 18 hours. President Sullivan arrived for the final briefing, accompanied by the remaining members of her government, who had not already been evacuated to the designated safe zones. The control room was crowded with the most important people in human civilization, all of them watching displays that showed impossible things becoming routine. Status report, Sullivan requested, though the question felt almost ceremonial at this point. All systems operational, Chen reported. Population evacuation to designated worlds is complete. We have successfully tested the quantum tunnel network on progressively larger scales. The final test involving a small moon was completed yesterday with complete success. Casualties from the testing phase? None. The process appears to be completely safe for organic matter when properly shielded. General Amy Carter studied the displays with the expression of someone trying to understand a magic trick. I still do not completely comprehend how this works. We create artificial boundaries in spacetime, Chen explained for perhaps the 100th time. Think of it as cutting out a section of the universe and moving it somewhere else. The physical matter never actually travels through space. We move the space containing the matter. And our destination, coordinates beyond the galactic rim where no council species has ever ventured. A region with suitable star systems but no existing claims or territorial disputes. Admiral Nick Foster looked up from his own monitoring station. What about our message to the Council? Jake Morrison had returned from Nexus Prime the previous day, completing the longest diplomatic mission in human history. He handed President Sullivan a data pad containing the message they had composed together. Sullivan read it silently and nodded approvingly. Short and direct. Send it on schedule. The message would be transmitted exactly 1 hour before the Council deadline expired. Until then, humanity would maintain the fiction that they were still considering the alien ultimatum. The deception was probably unnecessary, but it felt important to preserve the illusion of normalcy until the very last moment. "Ma'am," called a technician from across the control room. "We are receiving final confirmation signals from all quantum anchor points. The network is ready for activation." Chen consulted his calculations one more time, though he had memorized every equation weeks ago. "We will begin the process in 6 hours. That should give us sufficient time to complete the transition before the Council realizes what is happening." "How long will the actual process take?" Sullivan asked. "Once we begin, approximately 17 minutes for the entire operation. Earth and Mars will translate first, followed by the 12 colony worlds in rapid succession. And after that, we will be approximately 2 million light-years from our current position in a galaxy cluster that shows no signs of intelligent life." The control room fell quiet as everyone absorbed the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. Humanity was preparing to pick up their entire civilization and move it to a completely different region of the universe. No species in galactic history had ever attempted anything remotely similar. "Any final concerns?" Sullivan asked. "Just one," replied Dr. Hayes. "We are essentially gambling the survival of our entire species on mathematics that most physicists would consider impossible. Do you believe the mathematics are correct?" "Yes, ma'am. The theory is sound and all our tests have been successful." "Then we proceed as planned." Chen activated the final countdown sequence and watched as displays throughout the control room began showing synchronized timers. In 6 hours, humanity would either achieve the impossible or destroy themselves trying. Outside the underground facility, the city of New Geneva continued its normal routines. People went to work, children attended school, and traffic moved through the streets in ordinary patterns. Most humans still did not know what was happening beneath their feet. But in orbit around Earth and Mars, massive quantum anchor installations hummed with increasing power. The anchors looked like geometric sculptures crossed with technological nightmares, their surfaces covered with crystalline arrays that bent light in impossible directions. Similar installations orbited each of the 12 colony worlds that humanity had chosen to take with them. Every anchor was connected to every other anchor through quantum entanglement fields that existed outside normal space-time. The largest installation orbited Earth itself, a structure so massive that it cast shadows across entire continents when it passed between the planet and the sun. Its quantum field generators could manipulate space-time on a planetary scale, creating the focal point for an operation that would redefine what intelligent species believed was possible. In the Vorthak fleet, Admiral Zorthal continued studying the tactical displays without understanding what he was really looking at. His instruments detected massive energy buildups throughout the Sol system, but the readings made no sense according to known physics. "Sir, we are detecting unusual electromagnetic signatures from the human worlds," his sensor officer reported. "The patterns do not match any known technology." Elaborate. The energy readings suggest power generation on a scale normally associated with stellar phenomena. But the sources appear to be artificial installations. Zorthal studied the data with growing unease. "How long until the deadline expires?" 4 hours and 17 minutes, Admiral. Maintain full alert status. Whatever the humans are planning, it will happen soon. 2 weeks before the Council deadline, something strange began happening across human space. On the agricultural world of New Harmony, Farmer Joe Martinez finished his morning inspection of the grain processing facilities and then walked to the transport pad, where his family waited with a single suitcase each. They climbed aboard the civilian transport without looking back at the farmhouse where 3 generations of his family had lived. The transport lifted off into the morning sky, joining a steady stream of similar vehicles heading toward orbit. Below them, the vast grain fields stretched to the horizon, ripe and ready for harvest. Automated systems continued their work, tending crops that would feed millions. But no humans remained to oversee the harvest. Commander Drew Phillips watched from the bridge of his patrol ship as the exodus continued. His vessel orbited New Harmony at a distance, officially conducting routine security sweeps. In reality, he was documenting something unprecedented in galactic history. "Sir, that makes the 47th transport today," reported Lieutenant Kelly Brooks from her monitoring station. "The entire human population of New Harmony appears to be evacuating." Drew nodded and made another entry in his log. "Any signs of panic or distress?" "None, sir. They are loading personal belongings only and leaving all infrastructure operational." The planetary government transmitted a complete handover protocol to the Colonial Authority this morning. On the Vorthak monitoring station that orbited New Harmony at the edge of the system, Science Officer Velnara studied her instruments with growing confusion. Her crystal body hummed with harmonics that indicated deep puzzlement as she compiled her daily report. "The humans continue their systematic evacuation," she transmitted to her commander. "They have abandoned all agricultural processing facilities, the orbital mining platforms, and even the university research complex. But everything remains functional." Her commander's response came back as a discordant musical phrase that roughly translated to profound bewilderment. "Have they disabled any systems or taken any valuable resources?" "Negative," Velnara replied. "They have left detailed operating manuals for all facilities. The automated systems are running at peak efficiency. It is as if they expect someone else to take over immediately." The same pattern repeated itself across human space. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the last human supervisor locked the control room and uploaded the security codes to the colonial database before boarding an evacuation transport. The massive strip mining operation continued running automatically, producing rare metals at record rates for nobody in particular. The research station orbiting the gas giant Titan Prime shut down all classified projects and uploaded the remaining data to Earth. Dr. Sarah Kim, the station director, personally verified that all dangerous experiments had been safely terminated before she joined her staff on the final transport. They left behind laboratories equipped with technology that most galactic species could only dream of owning. Even the prestigious university world of New Athens emptied itself of human presence. Students and faculty packed their personal belongings and departed on a fleet of academic transports. They left behind a completely functional educational facility, with libraries containing the accumulated knowledge of human civilization. The automated systems continued maintaining the buildings and grounds for students who would never return. Ambassador Zexathara called an emergency council session when the reports started arriving from monitoring stations throughout human space. The Great Hall on Nexus Prime filled with confused and increasingly worried alien representatives. 17 worlds have been completely evacuated in the past 10 days, she announced, her crystal form cycling through colors that indicated deep concern. "The humans are abandoning developed planets but leaving all infrastructure intact." War Speaker Thex from the Hegemony Military Council buzzed with agitation. "No species voluntarily abandons developed worlds," he stated. "There must be some military purpose to this action." "What military purpose could there be in giving away valuable territory?" asked the Feltar representative, his tentacles writhing with confusion. "Perhaps they are consolidating their population for a final defensive stand," suggested the Corvian delegate, "concentrating their forces on their most defensible worlds." But Jake Morrison, who remained on Nexus Prime as humanity's representative, offered no explanations when questioned. He attended the emergency sessions and listened politely to alien speculation about human intentions. When asked directly about the evacuations, he simply smiled, that same unsettling smile that had bothered the council during their first meeting. "We are complying with your suggestion that we make room for more suitable species," he said calmly. "Surely the council approves of cooperation." The confusion deepened when reconnaissance probes reached the abandoned human worlds. Every facility was not only intact but operating at optimal efficiency. The humans had left behind step-by-step operational manuals written in several galactic languages. They had even prepared detailed reports on local conditions, resource yields, and potential improvements to existing systems. On New Harmony, Vorthak exploration teams found grain stores sufficient to feed an entire system for years. The processing facilities had been upgraded with technology the Vorthak had never seen before. Production estimates indicated the world could support agricultural output, far beyond what the relatively small human population had achieved. The mining world of Kepler-7 yielded similar surprises. Human extraction technology had been quietly producing rare metals at rates that exceeded the most optimistic projections. The abandoned facilities could supply the raw materials for an entire fleet of capital ships. Most disturbing of all was the university world of New Athens. The libraries contained scientific data that made council researchers question fundamental assumptions about physics, biology, and engineering. The humans had been conducting research that was decades ahead of the galactic standard. They are more advanced than we realized. Velnara reported to her superiors after spending 3 days examining human facilities on New Harmony. Their technology exceeds council standards in every category we have tested. Similar reports flooded in from other monitoring stations. The humans had not been the primitive species the council assumed. They had been quietly developing capabilities that surpassed most galactic civilizations while maintaining the appearance of a minor power. War Speaker Thex found this revelation deeply disturbing. If they possess such advanced technology, why are they evacuating instead of fighting? Perhaps they know something we do not, suggested Zexathara, though she was not sure what that might be. On the edge of human space, Admiral Zorthel of the Vorthak fleet studied tactical displays showing the systematic evacuation. His flagship hung in space near the abandoned research station at Titan Prime, monitoring the last transports as they headed toward the inner systems. Intelligence reports indicate most of the human population is now concentrated on Earth and Mars, his tactical officer reported. Their fleet remains in the Sol system. A final stand then, Zorthal mused. But something about the situation felt wrong. What of their frontier colonies beyond our monitoring range? The same pattern. Evacuated but intact. It is as if they are preparing for a long journey rather than a battle. The Admiral studied the displays for a long moment. In his experience, species facing overwhelming odds either fought desperately or surrendered quickly. He had never encountered a species that simply walked away while leaving gifts behind. Maintain observation, he ordered. Something is happening here that we do not understand. Back on Nexus Prime, Jake Morrison received a priority message from Earth. He read it once, deleted it from his communication device, and requested a final meeting with the Galactic Council. When the alien representatives assembled, he stood before them with the same calm expression he had worn throughout the crisis. Humanity would like to thank the Council for their patience during our deliberations, he said politely. We will have a final answer for you within 72 hours. The promise felt more like a threat, though none of the aliens could explain why. 3 days after the Council meeting, the official message arrived at Earth through the standard diplomatic channels. President Kate Sullivan read it twice in her office overlooking the city of New Geneva before calling an emergency cabinet meeting. The document was written in the formal language that galactic bureaucrats used when they wanted to sound important and threatening at the same time. The cabinet room filled quickly, with the most important people in human government. Secretary of Defense Ryan Cole arrived first, carrying a thick folder of intelligence reports. General Amy Carter came next, still wearing her military uniform from the morning briefing. Admiral Nick Foster brought his usual serious expression and a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. Dr. Alex Chen hurried in last, carrying 3 different tablets and looking like he had not slept in days. As head of the Department of Advanced Sciences, he had been working around the clock on projects that most cabinet members only knew about through code names and budget allocations. President Sullivan stood at the head of the long table and activated the secure holographic display. The Council's ultimatum appeared in the air above them, written in both human languages and the original alien script that looked like musical notes drawn by someone having a seizure. They are giving us 1 standard galactic month to comply with integration protocols, Sullivan said. After that, they promise what they call appropriate consequences. Ryan Cole opened his folder and spread papers across the table. Our intelligence networks have been monitoring Council military movements, he reported. They are positioning fleets near our outer territories. The Vorthak Empire alone has moved over 3,000 capital ships to forward positions. General Carter leaned back in her chair, and made a sound that might have been either a laugh or a sigh. "What is our current fleet strength, Admiral?" Nick Foster consulted his tablet without enthusiasm. 47 destroyers, 12 heavy cruisers, and the new dreadnought UES Defiance, he said. Impressive by human standards, but we would be facing odds of roughly 100 to 1. Those are not good odds, Sullivan observed dryly. No, ma'am. They are not. Dr. Chen had been quiet during this exchange, but now he looked up from his tablets with an expression that mixed excitement and exhaustion. However, our recent breakthrough in quantum tunnel technology might provide options they have not considered. Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Chen had been working on classified projects for the past 2 years. Projects that consumed enormous amounts of funding and produced results that nobody outside his department fully understood. Explain. Sullivan said. We have successfully tested the ability to manipulate space-time on a large scale, Chen said carefully. The applications are somewhat theoretical, but the mathematics check out. General Carter frowned. Are you talking about weapons? Not exactly, Chen replied. More like transportation. Very large-scale transportation. Admiral Foster set down his coffee cup with a clink that sounded loud in the sudden quiet. How large-scale? Planetary. Chen said simply. The silence that followed lasted long enough for Sullivan to walk to the large window that overlooked the city. Below them, millions of humans went about their daily lives. Traffic moved through the streets in orderly patterns. Children played in parks while their parents watched from benches. Office workers grabbed lunch from street vendors and hurried back to their jobs. None of them knew that alien fleets were gathering at the edge of human space like storm clouds preparing to break. What would you need to make this theoretical application practical? Sullivan asked without turning from the window. Time, Chen said immediately, and complete cooperation from every branch of government. We would need to coordinate evacuation procedures, resource allocation, and construction projects on a scale never attempted before. How much time? 2 weeks minimum. 3 would be better. Sullivan turned back to the room. They gave us a month. That leaves us time to prepare our response. Ryan Cole looked skeptical. What kind of response are we talking about, Madam President? The kind that preserves human independence, she replied. General Carter, begin preparing evacuation protocols for our outer colonies. Make it look like standard emergency preparedness exercises. Admiral Foster, I want our fleet positioned to buy time if necessary. Dr. Chen, you have whatever resources you need to make your theoretical application very practical very quickly. What about the Council? Asked Foster. They will be expecting some kind of response to their ultimatum. Sullivan walked back to her chair but did not sit down. We will give them a response, she said. We will ask for time to consider their generous offer while our people make final preparations. Preparations for what exactly? Carter asked. For what comes next, Sullivan replied. Dr. Chen, explain to everyone what you mean by planetary transportation. Chen took a deep breath and activated his own holographic display. Mathematical equations appeared in the air, along with diagrams that looked like somebody had tried to draw 4-dimensional objects on a 2-dimensional surface. We are not talking about moving planets through space in the conventional sense, he explained. We are talking about moving the space around planets, creating artificial boundaries in space-time, and relocating entire sections of reality to different coordinates. The equations shifted and reformed as Chen continued his explanation. Think of space as a piece of cloth. Instead of moving objects across the cloth, we fold the cloth itself and bring distant points together. Admiral Foster stared at the display with the expression of someone trying to solve a puzzle without all the pieces. You are talking about science fiction. I am talking about science fact, Chen corrected. We tested it 3 days ago on a scale model. We successfully moved a small asteroid from the outer system to a position near Mars without the asteroid actually traveling through the intervening space. General Carter leaned forward. How small an asteroid? About the size of a city block. And you think you can scale this up to entire planets? I know we can, Chen said with more confidence than he felt. The mathematics are sound. We just need to build the infrastructure. President Sullivan looked around the room at her advisors. Any other questions? Just one, said Ryan Cole. What happens to the planets we leave behind? We leave them exactly as they are, Sullivan replied. Complete with all infrastructure, all facilities, and all resources. A gift to the galaxy. They will think we are running away in fear. Sullivan smiled, and for a moment she looked remarkably like Captain Jake Morrison addressing the Galactic Council. Let them think whatever they want. The important thing is that we will be running away to freedom. The meeting continued for another hour as they discussed details and timelines. When it ended, each person left with specific assignments and the understanding that humanity was about to attempt something that had never been tried before. Outside the windows of the cabinet room, the city of New Geneva continued its daily rhythm. But in secret facilities beneath the streets, enormous machines were already beginning to hum with power that would soon reshape the definition of possible. The great hall on Nexus Prime stretched wide like an ocean of polished metal and glowing crystals. Ambassador Zexathara stood at the center podium, her body made of living crystal that caught the blue light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. She was angry, and everyone in the room could feel it through the way her crystals hummed with sharp notes. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the human section with his small team. Dr. Lisa Park was reading something on her tablet, while Commander Ben Taylor watched the alien representatives with calm eyes. Jake himself looked relaxed in his simple blue uniform, his hands folded in his lap like he was waiting for a boring meeting to end. The Galactic Council chamber held 17 different alien species today. Each group had their own section with seats made for their particular body types. The Vorthak Empire took up the largest space with their crystal forms that sang to each other in musical tones. The hegemony insects clicked and buzzed in their metal chairs that looked like geometric puzzles. Other species filled the remaining areas with fur, scales, tentacles, and stranger things that defied easy description. Zexathara began speaking, and her voice carried across the chamber like bells ringing underwater. The human delegation continues to reject our reasonable terms for integration into galactic society, she said. They refuse to accept the benefits we offer their primitive species. Jake did not move or change expression. Lisa continued reading her tablet. Ben kept watching the aliens with the same calm look he might use to study interesting animals at a zoo. Hive speaker Clax rose from the hegemony section, his insect body towering over most other beings in the room. His mandibles clicked together as he spoke in the buzzing language that translation devices turned into words. Humans possess only 12 worlds compared to our thousands, he said. We offer protection, advanced technology, and prosperity. In return, we ask only for compliance with established galactic law and resource-sharing agreements. The other alien representatives nodded or made their species equivalent of agreement. The Feltar delegation swished their tentacles approvingly. The Corvian bird creatures ruffled their metallic feathers in what passed for applause among their kind. Jake finally stood up. The movement was slow and deliberate, like water flowing uphill. Every alien in the chamber turned to look at him. Something about the way he moved made them pay attention even though he was just a human, from a species they considered barely civilized. We appreciate the Council's generous offer, Jake said in a voice that carried clearly through the chamber without being loud. However, humanity must respectfully decline. Silence fell across the great hall like a heavy blanket. The Vorthak crystals stopped humming. The hegemony insects stopped clicking. Even the small background noises from the various alien technologies went quiet for a moment. Zexathara's crystal form shifted through several colors before settling on a deep red that meant confusion mixed with anger. You misunderstand the nature of this offer, Captain Morrison, she said. This is not a negotiation between equals. Species with fewer than 50 worlds do not have the luxury of choice in these matters. Jake smiled. It was a small expression that barely moved his mouth, but somehow it made several aliens in the front rows lean back in their seats. We understand perfectly, Ambassador, he replied. Our answer remains no. The chamber erupted into noise as different species began talking, clicking, humming, and buzzing at each other. Some sounded angry, others confused, and a few seemed almost frightened. Never in the recorded history of the Galactic Council had a species simply refused integration when offered the choice between membership and conquest. War Speaker. Thex from the Hegemony Military Council stood up, his massive insect form bristling with barely contained aggression. Perhaps the humans do not understand what refusal means, he said in a voice like grinding metal. Species that reject Council authority face the full consequences of their choice. We understand that too, Jake said, still smiling that small, unsettling smile. We are prepared to accept whatever consequences you believe are appropriate. Dr. Lisa Park finally looked up from her tablet. She had been taking notes throughout the entire meeting, recording everything with the calm efficiency of someone documenting an interesting but ultimately unimportant scientific phenomenon. If I may add something to Captain Morrison's statement, she said politely. Zexathera's crystals shifted to a brighter red. Speak. Humanity thanks the Council for clarifying the terms of this relationship, Lisa said. It helps us make informed decisions about our future. Ben Taylor spoke for the first time during the meeting. Will there be anything else the Council needs from us today? He asked in a tone that suggested he had other places to be. The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire nobody could see. The alien representatives looked at each other with expressions of confusion and growing unease. They had expected the humans to argue, to plead, to try to negotiate better terms. They had prepared for anger or fear or desperate bargaining. They had not prepared for calm acceptance followed by polite dismissal. Zexathera struggled to regain control of the situation. The Council will meet to discuss appropriate responses to human intransigence, she announced. You will be contacted with our final decision. Jake nodded as if she had just told him the weather forecast. We'll be waiting, he said. The human delegation gathered their few belongings and walked toward the chamber exit. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet as 17 alien species watched them leave. Jake paused at the doorway and turned back to address the assembly one final time. Thank you for your hospitality, he said. Nexus Prime is a beautiful station. Then the humans were gone, leaving behind a chamber full of aliens who had just experienced something none of them understood. The silence that followed felt different from ordinary quiet. It felt like the moment before thunder crashes, when the air itself seems to hold its breath. Zexathera looked around the chamber at her fellow council members. For the first time in her long diplomatic career, she felt uncertain about what came next.